Hey, so in this video what we're going to do is we're going to install Linux. I'm going to be using Ubuntu, I decided, and actually, if you notice, they have different versions. So if you click download here, they'll say Ubuntu Desktop. This is if you want to run Linux yourself. This is probably what I would install to run my local computer, but to get started learning Linux, we're going to go without a graphical user interface to start with. We're going to get there. But to make sure we know the basics, what I'm going to do is get Ubuntu server. This is what runs on a lot of Linux servers in the cloud. So get Ubuntu server. Instant Ubuntu VMs. Let's just do manual server installation. So let's see. Alternative releases. Okay, the latest version of Ubuntu server is this one. So let's go with this one. This is the 21.10. So we're downloading this. This will be an ISO file. So all you have to do is put it somewhere where you have, let's see, projects, Linuxing. Oh, actually, yeah. So because I'm installing it on a different, this is what I'm going to use to run the virtual machine. And these are all on actually my other server in the basement, which is running Linux. So what I need to do is I need to get that image over there so that I can run it. So let's see, that's this link here, and then we go. This is a little advanced stuff. I'm going to go over to my other computer. I'm going to go to VM and then ISOs, and then I'm going to download that file. So this is going to download. It's not that big. It's going to be like a gigabyte, maybe a little bit more. So this is coming. This is not the most bare bones Linux can get. You will be surprised when you find out how small Linux really can get. But that's 1.18 gigabytes, so that's an ISO file. And then if we go to this program is an interface for a QEMU virtualization. But if you were going to install this on a virtual machine, I would recommend starting with VirtualBox. Okay. This is a free piece of software that allows you to run virtual machines on your computer, and it's for Mac OS and Linux, I believe. Maybe not Mac. Oh yeah, Macintosh, sure. So it should be pretty simple. It'll follow the same kind of procedures as here. So what I'm going to do is close this. Actually, I'm going to keep this window open because I want to go to. I'm going to open the installation guide for Ubuntu server. And I'm just going to keep this open while I install this VM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new virtual machine by using local install media. I'm going to browse and then go to ISO. This is where this will look different a little bit in your VirtualBox interface or whatever you're using. And remember, you can also install this just on a computer by writing the ISO to a USB drive and then booting from the USB drive. I would Google how to do that, but of course you can always ask me for help with that. I'm going to choose that. Okay. So this is Ubuntu server. I don't know why it needs to know. Ubuntu 21 point, I believe it's 10. Yep, 2110. And then we'll go forward with that. I'm going to say we have 4 gigabytes. I have 64 gigs of RAM installed in this server, so let's just go with it's 8192. Is that right? Hold on. 4096 times 2. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's 8 gigs of RAM and 4 CPUs. So it's gonna this virtual computer is gonna use 4 of the CPU cores of the server that it's running on. And then I'm going to use a 25 gigabyte disk image. I'm actually going to bump this up to 30 just to make sure that we have enough room. And then I'm going to, this you can probably use the default for the network. And then I'm going to go to bridge device and just type in BR0 because I've already configured that on my computer here. I'm going to click finish and it's creating. And then here, this is what it looks like when it boots up. So I'm going to go to Ubuntu server. What this should do is kind of set it up. And then we should be prompted to actually install the operating system. Okay, yes, here we go. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to view, I'm going to set scale display to always, but anyway, I'm going to go to full screen. Okay, so now we are installing this operating system. So we can use the defaults, English. Oh, update to the new installer. I don't know why that's an issue. Okay. Here, I'm actually going to set my keyboard layout to English Dvorak because I type with a different keyboard layout, but you can probably leave that the same if you are just typing on a QWERTY keyboard. But feel free to change your layout to whatever country you're from. And then we're applying this config. Ubuntu server, let's see. The default install contains a curated set of packages that provide a comfortable experience for operating your server, or do we not want those packages to help us out and this is all scripted. So let's go with the standard here. Let's go done. We did get an IP address, so this was automatically configured. There shouldn't be a problem getting an IP address from your local router, even on a virtual machine, but you'll have to configure it if you don't get one. Let me know. Let's see, and then done. And then we do not need a proxy. We'll go done, and then that mirror is fine. We'll go done, and then we will use this entire disk. Not quite sure what this is, but we don't want it. We're not going to encrypt it right now. But we'll go down to done here, and then this is what's going to happen here. That looks good. That looks good. All right, done. Continue. Okay, so my name is Eli T. Drum. My server's name is going to be Ivo, because it's Ivo is the server, and I put a U at the end. But you can name your computer whatever you want. Pick a username. I am Winfield, and then done. And then yes, we want to install that. Oh, can I? Wait, what? Oh, you know what? Actually, let's try this. Let's try that. And then that'll put the public key for my. Yeah, let's try that. Oh no. Let's try that. Okay, fetching SSH keys. So yeah, this is gonna be correct. I'm not gonna worry about that. But here's an opportunity to oh gosh, snaps in server environments. So these are like packages, I think. So it looks like we have the opportunity to install a bunch of stuff. So here's like the Heroku CLI. Here's the Google Cloud CLI. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna worry about any of this right now. We can always install this later. Like we're gonna get to Docker and PowerShell. Well, that's Windows, but it works on Linux now because here's the Amazon CLI, and then there's some other stuff. But our server will work without any of this. So now it's actually installing the operating system to the drive. Now in this case, the drive is a file on the host machine. The host machine is this black box in my basement. The computer you're watching is the white box, and this is running on the black box Ivo, and then it's installing the operating system into a file that is essentially the hard drive of this virtualized computer. So it's downloading, installing security updates. That's good. Bum, 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 bum. This shouldn't take too long because I think we downloaded most of the operating system when we downloaded the image. Sometimes it'll give you the option when you install a Linux distribution to do what's called a net install, where the ISO that you download is small, and then it connects to the internet when it installs the operating system in this part of the process right here and downloads all of the necessary files. That usually means you get a more up-to-date version of the operating system when you first start running it, but that doesn't typically matter because updating packages is one of the first things you would do anyway. So it's just your choice. Don't worry about it too much. Okay, yeah, we are just waiting for this to install. Oh, wait. It says install complete. I guess it's not complete. I guess we are waiting on security updates. That's weird that it says install complete up here. But it doesn't say that down there. Okay, well, let's give it another minute and see what happens. How are you doing? How are you doing right now? I'm doing okay. I'm going to pause and I'll start again when it's done. Okay, so that took another few minutes, but now you can look at the full log if you want. Oh, wait, let me go back over here. You can look at the full log if you want. It ended with a success. It was installing updates to a lot of packages, and then we see we have the choice to reboot now. Let's do that. All right, well, it's not going to unmount the CD-ROM, but that's fine. Enter. All right, there we go. And then it's going to restart. Now, the software I'm using here to virtualize it should have taken out the what's it called? The CD-ROM that we used to install it, the ISO file. And now it's booting from the whoa. Okay. Oh, I see. These are the keys it pulled from GitHub. For some reason, it just printed that out. So if you go to the let's actually rename this. Well, we can't rename it while it's running. So if we go to the boot options, the disk is now selected instead of the CD-ROM. So we're actually booting from the installed operating system on the virtual disk. Okay, so let's make this full screen one more time, and then press enter, and maybe we're typing in. Maybe we're not. Oh wait, are we typing here? Oh yeah, we are. Hold on, here we go. So the login that I set up was Winfield, and then my password. And you won't see any characters entering in when you enter your password on Linux. So now I am in the operating system. What does that mean? So it means I'm running a shell. The shell is what communicates between you and the operating system. There are commands that you can type here. If you are familiar with software development, I know at 1150 or wherever you have studied before, what they did was they would have said that CD means change directory, and then ls means what is in this directory, so nothing's here right now. So if we type in pwd, that is print working directory. That tells us where we are. We are in /home/Winfield. In Linux, all paths start with a slash. It's like Mac OS if you've used that. But if you go back up to, you can type in cd to any directory on the whole computer. So you can cd to slash, and now if you pwd, we're just in slash. That's the very root of the operating system. And let's ls to see what's in here. And here we have a bunch of folders and maybe some other things. Most of these are going to be folders. So if we type in actually ls-al, what we're going to see is that all of these at the root level are owned by the root user. I am not the root user right now, although I do have access to it, I believe. What I can do is I can type su and hit enter. Maybe there's a default password for the root user. Oh, to run a command as administrator, use user root, use sudo command. Maybe I can't actually log in as the root user because they don't want you to. I'm sure there's a way to. But what I can do is sudo and then ls. And then I have to type in my sudo password, and then I get to run a command as the root. Now this will print out the same thing. However, notice it's not in color. That means that there's probably some defaults in the version of the shell that I'm running that are not there when the root user runs the same command. So ls-al, the -a will show all of the files, including hidden files. Hidden files always start with a dot. Okay, so by default, it won't show any file whose name starts with a dot. For example, I can show you this. So let's make a temporary directory. To make a directory, it's mkdir, make directory, and then the name of the directory. I'm going to call this examples. Oh, because I'm in, you know why I can't make it here? I thought I was in my home directory. I'm not. Remember, pwd, I'm in the root directory, and if you notice, up here on this line here, okay, the dot means this current directory. Now, there is a double dot here, but there shouldn't be because there's no way to go back up. The going 2 up just lands you back in the root directory. So right now, if I go cd ... and then pwd, I'm still in root. You can't go above the root. But to get back to my home directory, I can type cd home Winfield, or there's a shortcut for this. Your home directory in the shell is always denoted by a tilde. That's the shift backtick. So if you hit that, and then you see in the prompt, you see the tilde, that if I hit pwd, now I'm back in /home/Winfield. It doesn't show the tilde when I actually print the whole directory. So now we can try making a dir examples, and then ls, I have a folder called examples. If you ls-al, you'll see a lot of files that start with a dot, and then one that doesn't, that's examples, and that's a directory. You see at the beginning of the line here, there's a D. That means directory. I'll explain what all these other characters mean when we get to it. But you can see the first name Winfield in the line of examples here means the user, and the second one is the group. It's common practice nowadays in Linux to have one group per user. So we don't really use groups much anymore. You can add your users to some other groups, which help give them abilities that they normally wouldn't have on the system, but your main group will be named after your user probably. So we'll talk about all of these files here shortly, but one thing I can do is I can cd into examples, okay? And if I ls, and even if I ls-al, nothing's going to be in here. The only things in here are links to the current directory, or a line for the current directory, which is ls, which is examples. And then the other line is to go back up to the previous directory. And notice you can see that I own both of those directories. Well, there's no files in this folder. One quick command on Linux is touch. Touch means create a file if it doesn't exist already. So if I touch, let's try to make a file, because we're illustrating hidden files here. Touch visible.txt. If I ls now, visible.txt is in here. But if I edit it, you'll see there's nothing in there. And I'll show you how to check that in a moment. But then if I touch with a dot invisible.txt, okay? And if I ls, we don't see it. But if we say show me everything, it will show me the dot files, as they say. So dot invisible is a dot invisible.txt is a file. The ending with .txt is actually not even necessary. It's definitely possible in Linux, not necessarily on Windows, to have a file called touch. Let's see, no extension. Now if I ls, no extension is there. There is no file extension there. But Linux still knows it's a text file if I open it up, because it works a little bit different. Windows relies on the file extension to kind of tell it what the file is, and Linux does not. So let's go back up, cd ... We might just go back to examples, but I'm trying to get used to some common commands here. And here's the thing. All these commands that I've been using, ls, cd, mkdir, touch, pwd, all of them are common to all GNU Linux systems. So I've actually not used Ubuntu very much, but the basic stuff is going to be the same no matter where you go. And actually, Mac OS, OS X, or Mac OS as it's called now, uses Z shell, which is really a Linux shell. It's a shell if you open the terminal app, and all these commands will work there because it's also Unix based. Not all the commands once we start getting into more specific stuff, but yeah. So one important thing to know, and then we're going to start getting into package management, is how do I edit a file? So let's actually go back into examples. And I said that visible.txt is an empty text file. Okay. So if I go to, if I want to look at it, what I can do is, I have a few options depending on if I just want to read it or if I want to actually edit it. One tool that you're going to find installed on almost all distributions like this, as long as it's not too bare bones, is something called Nano. Nano is a very simple text editor. And if we type nano space, and that's the command, and then what file do we want to open? We want to open visible.txt. And now we are in Nano, and you can see it is an empty text file. Notice at the very top here, it says GNU Nano. This is one of those tools from the GNU project that is packaged along with a lot of Linux distributions, which is why the Free Software Foundation really calls it GNU Linux, not just Linux, because Linux is the core of the operating system, but without tools like this, it would be a lot harder to use, at least. So we can say, hi, this is a text file, just typing some stuff out. Okay, and then you can see down here at the bottom, here are all the commands. Nano doesn't use a very common setup. So Control O, that's the caret O, is write out. That means actually write the file. So let's write the file name to write. It's what we gave it at the beginning, and press enter. Wrote 3 lines. So this line, and this line are the lines that it wrote. And then we can press Control X to exit. Now if we type ls, enter, we still see visible.txt. Let's check ls-al. Now visible.txt is 54 bytes, okay? That means that it took 54 bytes to store that that file. So let's actually go back into it. Hold on. Well, maybe we don't have to go back into it. Let's just check how many words it has in that file, okay? And to do that, we can use WC, which is a word counting program that's on almost all these distributions. WC visible.text, and I'm pressing tab to complete that. And then it says 31154 visible.text. That's lines, words, and characters. So you can see every character was a byte. We didn't have any fancy text that required more than 1 byte per character, and that's exactly how it was stored. That's pretty cool. But I don't really like Nano so much. I prefer to use a text editor called Micro. Now, Micro is never automatically installed on these systems, but it operates a lot more similarly to what you might be used to as a text editor. So how do we get Micro if we don't have it? Well, we could go to the website. Do we have links installed? No, but can be installed with sudo apt install links. That is that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. That's a web browser that runs in your terminal here. So actually, yeah, we can see it, but we have to install it. So actually, what we can do is sudo apt install links. Let's try that. Okay. Yes, I want to install it, and there we go. Okay, great. Let's run links. Welcome to links. Display menu. Okay. You can press the G key to go to a URL, and we'll type google.com. Oh, hey, it's Google. You see that? Now, it's using an algorithm to figure out how to display the page. So the available things to click on are denoted with up and down arrows. So I'm gonna, now if I pressed the right arrow, and that wasn't really what I wanted. So I press down until I get to the search box, and then I can say Micro Text Editor, and then go down to Google search it. And here are the this is ridiculous. This always, oh no. So if I go, these are videos. I don't want videos. I want to go to all. So let's go to this first one here. This is the Micro Text Editor. This is, if we went to this page in the browser, let me actually do that. Hold on one sec. So if I go to this page in the browser, let's Google Micro Text Editor. Okay, this was the page we just saw, and then let's click on this. This is what we're seeing here. Now remember, we can't really display any images, right? So all these just display as flower. So if I, or no, these are the flowers. You see that? So it doesn't know that this is, if I inspect this down here, you'll see this is data target, data active. Okay, so these must be what it's calling flowers. And then the images are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I went to the Jumbotron and I went to span P, I'm not sure. So I mean that I'm getting way off track here, but you can see this page is here. Now you can get it here and then install it that way, but that's not how you install most software in Linux. I'm going to quit Linux with the Q key. Q usually means quit, except in Nano. What I want is I'm going to get Micro the same way I got Links, which is to apt install Micro. Now this isn't going to work. Why? Because I'm not running it as root. To install software, you need to be running as root, which means you need the sudo super user do program. So sudo apt install Micro. What this does is sudo is a program too, just like apt. What sudo does is it reads all of its arguments and it assumes the first argument, which is apt in this case, is the program we want to run instead of the first, and it's the first argument to sudo. So it sudo run to like it runs apt install Micro as the root user. Okay, so now We can install it. And then we can run micro. So micro starts looking like this, but we can copy with Control C, we can save with Control S, and we can quit with Control Q. Control Q. Okay, so now we have micro. But if I want to make micro my regular editor, I have to edit some environmental variables, and that kind of relates to modifying the shell, which, again, the shell is the program that communicates between you and the operating system of Linux in a text environment like this. So right now we are running the bash shell. That's what you'll almost always get as a default. Mac OS switched to Z shell for their default recently. That kind of broke some stuff for some people, but mostly it was a good move. I use Z shell on my main computer. So if we want to use Z shell, this is just an option. What you can do is install it. You have to install it. I'm pressing up to go through my most recent commands, and I'm going to install Z shell. That's ZSH. Okay. Now, if I log out, and then that's Control D. D means end of file. Control D means insert an end of file character. And when the shell reads an end of file character, it will end the interaction, which is your login session. Now I can log in again with my password, but I'm back in bash. Okay, so what now? We have to change our login shell. Okay, to do that, you can use the chsh command. That will change the shell for the current user, but it's going to ask me which shell I want to use. So if I type in Z shell, now I'm in the Z shell, okay? And if I press Control D, I get back to bash. It's like another program that runs. The shell can run another shell. In fact, it does that a lot. Not by you manually doing it, but just by how it works. So what you do here is use a program to change the configuration of your information in the computer. It's chsh. That will require you to put in your password. And then now it says enter the new value or press enter for the default. So I pressed enter because I forget where Z shell is. My guess would be it would be bin Z shell. Look at after that, because bin means binary, which are all of the files that you can execute on your computer. But let's just check that. So remember that when the first thing you type in on a line is the command you want to run, right? Now, how do you know? Your shell knows where this command is. So the command can't be in the current directory, right? The only thing in the current directory are these hidden files and let's see, and that examples folder we had earlier, right? So if it's not here, where is it? And the answer is it's on. The answer is that the shell will check certain directories for the program when you say to run it. So that is stored in what's called an environmental variable called your path. To see all of your environmental variables, that is a set of it's metadata about your current session, basically. And you can store anything you want in an environmental variable, and it will be accessible to a program. I'm sure Windows has something like this in PowerShell, but this is a very important Linux concept. So if you type in env and hit enter, this is all of your environmental variables. They're typically in all caps. They're stored in all caps, and then if you want to break a word, it's an underscore. So the shell keeps its own info in this line here. This shell is bin bash. The current directory is updated every time you change. The home directory is here. And then if you go down to here, this is path. These are the directories that it will search when it's determining what program to run. Now notice /bin isn't on there. It's all /usr, which is You can say user, but it's actually, I understand it's actually Unix system resources, which blew my mind when I first saw it, because I always assumed it was user. But if you want to just see the path, you can print that out too with a different command. Actually, I'll come back to that. So the path here is the file, is the directories that are searched when you type in a command. To check which program a command will point to, you can use the which command. Which Z shell. So if the which kind of program takes in the name of another program and says, okay, if you run this program, here's where it is. It's in USR bin Z shell. So now I can change my shell. I'm going to type in my password and then enter the new level USR bin Z shell. And then if I log out and I log back in, now I'm in the Z shell. Now Z shell will say, we want a configuration. Let's just not, you don't have a .zshrc file. Let's just create an empty one with a 0. And now, if we can clear the screen to get rid of that message, clear always clears the screen. Now we're running Z shell. That really isn't necessary because actually our prompt is now less informative because we don't know what directory we're in. And I think Mac has some sensible defaults on this, but right now, for this video, let's just go over a few more simple commands. If you ever don't know what user you're logged in as, and that can be it's kind of counterintuitive that you might run into that situation, you can always type in, who am I? And it'll tell you what user you are logged in as. It's cute, right? If you want to type in groups, these are the groups that your current user is a member of. So I'm a member of the sudo group. That means that I can use sudo. I'm also a member of some of these other groups. Those are not really important right now, but it's possible to add yourself to different groups. Like if you install Docker, you have to make yourself a member of the Docker group in order to use Docker without using sudo. And you're not supposed to run it as admin, even though it can do admin level stuff. What else is a good Linux command here? Well, let's see. So the computer has a name. Remember, I gave it the name IVOU. If you want to check the name, if it doesn't show up in the prompt for some reason, you can type in host name. That will print out the host name, which is Ivo in this case. In this case, what I want to do, let's see, we want to, check the date. And this is the current date. Now notice it's in UTC, so right now it's 5 p.m. Now this information, the way it formats the year here and all this information, the reason it says PM instead of like 17, 29, 14 or something, is because when I installed the operating system, I said, give me English US defaults. I'm pretty sure. And you can check that with localctl. So that, remember, you can see here, I have a Dvorak key map for X11. The VC key map should be Dvorak. I don't know why it is, even though it's not set. But the system locale is English US, and then UTF-8 is the text encoding. Different Linux distributions use different systems for the locale. And yeah, I'm going to stop here because there's so much basic stuff. I don't want to keep it all in one video. But now you should have a basic group. Even if you didn't like switch your shell or create any of those files, you still kind of have an idea of how this works. I mean, essentially command argument 1, argument 2. If I press enter here, it's going to say command is not a command. Command not found. Actually, command is a command. Command. I don't know what that means. But which command? It's a shell built-in command. I don't know what it does, but it's part of Z shell. It's not a program. It's part of Z shell. Interesting. All right. I'll be back soon, and you can explore on your own if you want, or just wait for the next video. That's fine. And I will see you then.